hackers aren't just like dropping malware and establishing persistence anymore. A lot of times they're reusing credentials. They're not breaking in, they're logging in. 86% of attacks are coming from some type of credential misuse or credential theft. And now that's only multiplied and magnified by Agentic AI and Copilots because, this concept called the blast radius, or how much data that one person has access to, is something that a lot of organizations can't get a handle on. And when you try to measure it, you realize it's huge. And now you put a Copilot in their hand or an Agentic AI in their hands, and you've removed the need to be technical to get data out. So now your insider threats, like an insider equipped with a Copilot, is just as good as a nation state actor in terms of accessing and exfiltrating data. You just don't realize it.
Welcome to another episode of Cloud Security Podcast. I've got Matt here with me. Hey man, thanks for coming in.
It's great to see you again. How's everything?
Yeah, oh my God. We've been talking so much about, I want to say makeup, and I encourage people to watch his keynote and some of his social media after. But for people who don't know about you yet, could you give us a bit 30-second version about your background? What got you into cybersecurity?
Sure. My name is Matt Radolec. I run systems engineering, incident response, cloud, managed data detection and response at Varonis. I've been there for about 8 years. I'm deeply passionate about protecting the world's data. I feel like since a young age, I had this calling to be a protector of some sort. And it took me a while to figure out that it was data that I was after the whole time. And now I'm really excited to share my passion about data security and cybersecurity with the world.
And because to your point about protecting the world, one thing that seems to be taking over the world right now seems to be AI and different forms of it. There's Copilots, there's a lot of it. Maybe to set the scene for the threat landscape that you're noticing as it's changing. It feels like the entire cybersecurity as we know today and the threats we knew about cybersecurity, they've all been challenged now. What's the new threat landscape that you're seeing, especially when that you also have cloud and IR team that report into you as well?
Yeah.
So what's the new threat landscape that you're finding cybersecurity is dealing with AI?
There's a couple of things I want to mention. One of those is we've always thought and talked about the insider threats.
Yeah.
And a lot of people jump to the Edward Snowden-like disgruntled IT administrators.
Yes.
But that's not your number one concern anymore. Hackers aren't just like dropping malware and establishing persistence anymore. A lot of times they're reusing credentials, or what we have to say Varonis is they're not breaking in, they're logging in.
Yes.
86% of attacks are coming from some type of credential misuse or credential theft. And now that's only multiplied and magnified by Agentic AI and Copilots because, this concept called the blast radius, or how much data that one person has access to, is something that a lot of organizations can't get a handle on. And when you try to measure it, you realize it's huge. And now you put a Copilot in their hand or an Agentic AI in their hands, and you've removed the need to be technical to get data out. So now your insider threats, like an insider equipped with a Copilot, is just as good as a nation state actor in terms of accessing and exfiltrating data. You just don't realize it. It's not something that you're thinking about. So one of the trends that we see is there's a lot more threats or incidents or breaches that are occurring where one user gets compromised and has access to a lot of data, and that causes a data breach. And that is not a sophisticated threat at all. Now, when we think about this like battle of AI, though, it is a little bit of the robots versus the robots.
Yeah.
Because we see cyber criminals, nation state actors also starting to use AI. And in two ways that I really would want to mention. One of those is this concept of a conversational bait. So we've all heard of like the Nigerian prince scam, right? Oh, congratulations, you're my cousin and you won $20 million. You just need to wire me 20,000 so I can get you this 20 million.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows about this scam. But what if it was different? What if it started with a conversation? Like, hey, it's been so long. How are you? How's it going with that podcast I just listened to about you?
Oh.
And so what's happening is the hackers have built like a large language models to have conversations with the ruse before actually sending the phishing email or sending the request for the wire.
Oh my God,
and you don't realize that you're having a conversation with a bot, and that bot is using ChatGPT to learn about you. So they know a little bit about you, and they're able to have a meaningful conversation all before they send the ruse.
Oh my
So
God.
I think this is something that we're up against. And a lot of people also worry about like deep fakes and stuff like that. The more that your content is out there, the easier that's going to be. And I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to trust what we see on the internet even less than we do now.
I think it's funny. The first thought that when you mentioned Nigerian prince was like, wait, is that not real? I'm never going to get the money. But I agree with you because the phishing emails are so sophisticated as well these days. You almost, all the security awareness training that was done before, it almost feels, is that really going to be helpful to your point when I'm having a conversation with this person, I've built trust with this person, and I can't even differentiate if the person is real Ashish on the other end or versus just someone who happens to use ChatGPT LLM with my profile picture on it.
Right. And did a little bit of homework on you. Asked, tell me about Matt.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about Matt? Because if you put that in ChatGPT right now, It's going to list podcasts that I do,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
cybercrime
All the
podcasts,
public
all
experience
the
that you
public
have.
experience I have, stuff that crawled from my LinkedIn, maybe
Yeah,
blog posts or articles I might have written or been quoted in. And if you were having a conversation with me about that stuff,
yeah,
I might reply.
yeah. Actually, it's a good point as well, because do you find that the newer landscape that has been evolving, there's obviously the email perspective, and you mentioned the fact that it's people inside your firewall now who are potentially threats with copilots, and no, it's literally, I'm going to copy paste from one directory to another directory. It's the same as, oh, I'm just going to copy paste into my chat GPT or whatever. What's the difference? It's the same thing, right? Because it's the enterprise edition or whatever. Because there has not been a public AI, like a big incident. There's a Capital One moment that happened with cloud where suddenly everyone became more aware of it. In the conversations you've had with customers and otherwise, are you finding other AI use cases for, well, oh shit, that should not have happened, oh shit moments? Like,
So this story I could tell you gets told dozens and dozens of times, and it's probably one of the reasons why we are absolutely swamped at this RSA conference with
right.
people that want to talk to us, because we have the world's first solution for Microsoft Copilot and it's expanding. But here's the use case that happens. They do a pilot.
Yep.
They maybe buy a dozen licenses for Copilot or 30 licenses for Copilot or 100 licenses for Copilot, and they turn it on.
Yep.
And they realize they can get to salary information. They can get passwords. They can get merger and acquisition details, all with a couple of keystrokes. And then they're like, oh my gosh, but also our business is benefiting so much. Like the note taking, the for Excel or Copilot for GitHub is really benefiting our dev teams. And so there's tension that builds between security and the business,
Yeah.
and they want to move forward. So they're coming and talking to Varonis because they want to get a handle on this and they want to do it fast, is they don't want security to be the reason that they don't roll out Copilot. But it is from some aha moment. Almost every time it's salary information.
Oh,
It's like the review cycle or the bonuses,
yeah,
or
yeah,
it's an upcoming merger and acquisition, or even like layoffs and things like that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
closures of factories and facilities, especially in the manufacturing space. This is stuff that obscurity protected from the user's view before, but now Copilot, like it removes the obscurity layer from security.
It's, so I guess what you're trying to defend, I guess, is the curiosity of the person to ask the question.
Yes, but before that person had to be technical. They had to
Yeah.
know how to use search, or they had to write scripts to be able to find this data.
Yeah.
Now it's just curiosity.
Yeah,
Right?
literally.
It's just like a little bit of self-control to not ask the Copilot all these dangerous
In
questions.
plain English as well.
Right, and exactly, and it doesn't even have to be good English.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
it could
Yeah.
be a little broken, and
Yeah,
Copilot
yeah.
just say, "Did you mean this?"
And I think that's what the scariest, and I think it goes back to the blast radius you mentioned earlier. So what about regulated industries like health and manufacturing and any of that? Are you seeing any use cases there as well that have?
Absolutely. And I think these are the ones that oftentimes have the biggest benefit.
Right.
Let's take healthcare as an example. Some of our healthcare clients were the very first ones to want to deploy Copilot. Because if you can buy doctors more time, not only are you going to make a healthcare company more money, but maybe you're going to actually help more people. So healthcare can be one of the
Oh.
biggest, like hospital systems,
Right.
one of the biggest benefits of agentic AI. Think about note taking. They have to produce all these medical notes,
That's right.
right? Every single interaction has to be put in a medical note and in the
Yeah, yeah.
patient's medical record. If you can speed that up or
Yeah.
make it more accurate, not only are you going to help the hospital make more money, which I mean, it's all for profit in the States, but you're also going to be able to help the doctors see more patients and see more patients more effectively. So they're the ones that stand to benefit the most, but there is also the most risk.
Yeah.
So that's why they're having conversations with companies like ours, like Varonis, is they want to get a handle on it and they want to be the first to adopt AI and get these benefits as a competitive advantage, but also to deliver better patient care. The same thing with financial services. In financial services, sometimes, and I hear a lot, we talk to like traders,
Yeah.
that like knowing something seconds ahead or tenths of
Yeah,
seconds
yeah.
ahead,
Microsecond makes a
or
difference
like a
there.
microsecond in processing
Yeah.
makes a difference. So what if the AI that you have
Yeah.
can get that analysis done a little bit faster than your competitors, and you make the trade seconds before? This could be millions or tens of millions of
That's
dollars.
right. Yeah.
Or the difference between catching the jump or catching the dip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when manufacturing as well?
Manufacturing is the same. Now, I think with manufacturing, it's more about being able to like invent new things and the ideation phase.
Right.
And I also see this a lot with companies that are trying to do creative thinking. I don't personally get a lot of new ideas when I'm using Copilot.
Okay.
But if I take an existing idea and I want 10 different spins on it, and I'm in that ideation phase,
Yeah.
I find that Copilots can be really useful at helping you break through that next layer of that innovation.
And to be specific, Copilot is, I think, not these days, so many things are Copilot. When you are looking at these use cases, are they Copilot specifically for your Their Copilot for GitHub, their Copilot for
Yeah,
Office
for Office
365,
365 or maybe
Excel.
Gemini,
Oh yeah, there is that as
or
well.
Agentforce on top of Salesforce is the
Yeah,
other really
yeah,
popular one. And this like agentic AI is also starting to gain a lot of steam
that's
where
right.
you're like, you move away from like the person when you call a company,
Yeah,
whether it's to book an appointment or get a service.
yeah,
No, I think almost all real estate is like this now, where you're trying to get see an apartment
yeah.
and you're just talking to some agentic AI about it the whole
Oh
time.
my God.
Even when you say you want to talk to a person, they just give you a different bond.
Yeah, I'm just so funny story. I was trying to so we do this creative dinner every year for a bunch of cybersecurity content creators, and I was trying to book a restaurant. It's a Korean barbecue place somewhere in SF. When you call them, you get this automated service, and in a lot of ways, it was a good reminder. I didn't talk to one single person. I made the reservation. It just asked me for prompts. I gave it the prompts while on the phone in voicemail as a voice. It made the booking. I got the email. Everything was end to end. And to your point, every little smaller business is also benefiting from this. But also at the same time, I wonder the internal threat party you called out as an attack vector, if you look at this, because that's where a lot of people, like you mentioned, blast radius. Outside of the data part, are there other components perhaps that are requiring attention even more?
Yeah, I think denial of service is one to think about in
Okay.
this agentic space. If you have a public facing, again, let's just use the reservation example that you brought up.
Yeah.
How easily could that be overwhelmed? Now,
Yeah.
what's the impact? Like all your resis book up and you have to clear them out.
Yeah.
So maybe it's frustrating, but if
Yeah.
it happened in a sustained way, it could definitely hurt your business.
Yeah.
I also think that this also draws the need, and I've been talking about this a lot. Insecurity in the last, I'll say like 10 years,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about confidentiality in terms of like keeping data a secret.
That's right.
And because of ransomware, we've talked a lot about availability.
Yes.
Which is if I lose access to my data and it's encrypted and I can't deliver my business outcomes.
Yeah.
AI draws the need for us to talk about integrity more. Now, more than ever, you need to make sure that the data you feed into the LLMs you're building
Yeah.
is good, clean data, especially in stuff like healthcare and medical research. Because if
Oh.
that data got altered
Yeah.
and then fed into an AI,
Yeah.
the outcomes of that and the consequences of that are far worse than that data getting publicly leaked. Because now decisions are going to be made based on faulty data that went into it.
Yeah.
So I predict the trend where we start to see the ransomware actors start to try to poison the data that goes into the models as opposed to just capture the data that comes out of the model.
Every conversation that I've had at every CISO dinner, to at least for the last couple of days, I found that everyone is being asked by the executives pushing AI. AI is going to be the number one thing. We want to advance, and to what you called out, every industry was going to see multitudes of benefits from it. They have to adopt it for the edge, because if they don't do it, their competitors are doing it. So everyone's
Absolutely.
pushed into a
Absolutely.
corner with it. What are the blind spots of rushing into it? And I don't mean it in the context that I'm not saying that we should not go into AI. I'm just conscious of the fact that you're also talking to the people who are implementing this at scale, healthcare, manufacture.
Yeah.
You mentioned all of the financial industry. Like, what's the blind spot here?
One of them is like non-determinative. It's like the fact that you and me could ask ChatGPT the same question and get different answers.
Ah, right.
That's
Okay.
a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Like it's based off of the previous queries that we've made.
Yeah.
It's based off of our search history and the conversations that we've had with the copilots.
Yeah.
So the fact that it isn't scientifically provable, it's not a fact that gets produced on the other end. I think we've never necessarily seen the impact of that yet. I think the other thing that we have to worry about is what I was trying to bring up before. If bad data is fed in, a lot of this was happening with DeepSeek, where people were just dumping lots of data into DeepSeek,
Yeah.
and it wasn't as, let's say, powerful of as a model, and it was getting results back that were less than valuable.
Yeah.
Now you've hurt the environment with all the compute you've just wasted. But you've also wasted a lot of time to get an inaccurate result. And what if now bad data is then used to train something that's then used for downstream business decisions? So the way I think about it is like this. In business, a bad decision you can recover from if you fail fast.
Yeah.
Like this DevOps mindset of fail fast, innovate fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't realize you're failing with AI because you built a bad model and you continuously make bad decisions with that model, how are you making sure you're failing fast with AI? This is the question I'd want to ask.
Oh, actually,
I don't want to spin that back to that same person that's asked me what to want. How do you know you're failing fast?
yeah.
How do you know you're winning though? How do you know you're getting the gains? Do you have a metric from before and after? Because I'll give you an example if you don't mind. So I run the managed data detection and response.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we measure really closely is how long it takes us to investigate, respond to, and close alerts for our clients.
Yeah.
So we built a AI security analyst.
Okay.
And we baseline our humans against the AI. At baseline, you have to be better than the AI, or unfortunately, you're not going to last very long.
Which is a fair
Like
point.
you have
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
more
Fair
accurate,
point. Yeah.
more precise, and faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
If not, then again, you might not have a long tenure in our managed detection and response team. And
Yeah.
I think that this tension is healthy
Yeah.
because it's my job as a practitioner, but also as a publicly traded company. We got to be efficient. We got to be precise. We got to be accurate. We got to protect the world's data.
Yeah.
And so I think the use case per organization and per company, there are ways to say, am I getting it right? Or is it actually making things worse? Because if it increased the rate at which I had false negatives or false positives,
That's bad.
that'd be bad client outcomes. So
Yeah.
they got to be better than that too. And
Yeah.
so from just simply from the standpoint of like, how do you measure success or how do you measure failure? How do you fail fast and innovate fast? These are how I would try to answer the, how do I know, or what do I need to be worried about in terms of AI?
Where does the whole data vaults and stuff fit into this? Because obviously a lot of people are building this in cloud and working with applications in cloud. A lot of that data is in cloud.
Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned the data security part, the data leakage part, and now the integrity part being more important. Data vaults is the thing, identity abuse is the thing. What are some of these
I
things playing
also
a role?
think that like masking and tokenization and encryption is going to come back with a
Oh,
vengeance
okay.
because we might not be able to prevent data from getting fed into a model, but
Mm.
maybe it doesn't need to be everything. Does it really need the social security numbers and the credit card numbers? No, it just needs to know Matt likes to shop here, or this is Matt's health information.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if we can mask it inside the models, it can still get the value it wants to derive from the other parts of those data elements, but not necessarily the sensitive regulated parts. And I think this is what businesses are faced with right now is how do I move fast, but not dump all this extra data in?
Yeah.
Same could be said about data lakes though. And we've been doing that. We did this 5 years ago with Snowflake and Databricks and all
Yeah,
these
yeah,
other data
yeah.
lakes. This is just like the next place for people to make a ton of mistakes.
And do you find that the people who did this in the beginning, or maybe doing it now, a lot of them are focusing, at least initially, on Office 365 and
Yeah,
that as
absolutely.
the
Office
starting point?
365 or in the build your own agentic AI is also getting really hot right now.
Oh,
So Agentforce from Salesforce is another one that has just taken off.
okay.
They really want to be the leaders in helping you have an agent for your small business, help you gain those efficiencies from a Salesforce perspective. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of the Copilot. We also see a lot of companies that are building their own LLMs on top of or adjacent to ChatGPT.
Oh, wow. So it's not, I guess, so contrary to the popular belief that, oh, I'm just using OpenAI or I'm just using Gemini, people are actually using multiple
Yeah,
and
they
they're
want to
building their own
combine
thing.
the data streams together. I think some of the largest tech companies in the world right now have their own data lake that they're combining with a ChatGPT type of model in
Yeah,
order to get unique results out of it. Because that's where the value to your business comes from. You take all this institutional knowledge in your business,
yeah,
you combine it with the large language model or kind of the hive mind, as you'd like to think about it.
yeah.
That new end product, that's the power of AI.
Actually, could you raise an interesting point with SaaS applications? Like I'm going to take Salesforce as an example. Them having an agent and us being a consumer of that agent or a consumer of Salesforce, whatever, does that kind of change the threat landscape a bit more? Because to your point about data, I as like an individual with a access to data as an internal threat versus now I have sensitive data in Salesforce and other places. What's the change in threat landscape with those
You
kind
need to
of
worry about AI security. Like you need to worry about stuff like model poisoning. You need to
yeah,
worry about stuff like prompt engineering. Now, but fortunately, I think for everyone here at RSA conference and all your listeners, a lot of the AI companies themselves are moving security to the left in their models.
yeah.
And they're trying to build AI governance and AI ethics into their models. I ultimately think that this AI security startup space around LLM security isn't going to take off for this reason. I
Oh,
don't really believe that like it should be on the consumer of AI to make sure the model itself is safe. I think
oh,
this is
right.
upstream needs to be the responsibility of the companies building the models and the toolkits and not the consumers of them. But there is something to be said about a balance on this too, though. And let's just use Salesforce as an example.
Yeah,
Salesforce is on the hook for certain parts of security,
yeah,
and customers of Salesforce are on the hook for other parts of security.
yeah.
AI needs to be the same, but in terms of the model itself being vulnerable, that needs to be on the creators of the model. I don't think that's on the consumers because the consumer can't fix it. I can't rewrite the code. If
Yeah.
ChatGPT has flaws in its logic and reasoning, I, as a consumer of ChatGPT, cannot solve for that.
What about people using the snowflakes of the world and others? But I guess maybe where I'm going with this is as people are using more SaaS services that have agents, we're talking about shared responsibility here. As you evolve, and you mentioned that, hey, LLM providers, LLM security people that, or security companies that exist at the moment, they may not exist the same way. Is the thinking there, obviously you guys are in the data security space, you
Yeah.
see this in and out. As long as the data is clean and structured in a way that you can consume the right
And the
way.
rights are set up the right way. This is what's all
Oh
going to
yeah,
come
yeah.
down
Oh,
to. It's going
there's
to come
that.
down
Yeah,
to an access management
yeah,
problem,
yeah,
which is the same one we've been facing in security for as long as I've been in the
yeah,
industry. I don't know. The first time I had to deal with like Active Directory group permissions, I feel like I was in middle school or something like that. And I was
yeah.
trying to set up a domain on
Oh my
Windows
God, yeah,
3.1 or XP or
yeah.
something like this.
Policies in Azure
Server
Directory.
2003 or server policies in Server 2003. And access rights was the problem then.
Yep,
That's what got you in a breach.
yep.
Has
And
it changed?
no, as
Can we name one part about that's changed? Or is it still that just like basic access management can be what saves you from a breach or leads to one? I think it's the same problem. Snowflake, Databricks, Salesforce, Microsoft 365, file servers and NAS arrays, S3 buckets. I could just keep telling you. Every single place that people put data, if the access management is tight, they probably don't have a data breach by AI or by their own employees or by an external threat actor. But if access management's wide open, they have a big blast radius. Like that is the weakest part of your security program. You can have the
yeah,
most sophisticated stack in the world, modern firewalls, SSAE, next gen endpoint, next gen EDR, IPSs, managed detection and response. But if when I compromise in a single account, I can use Copilot to access all the salary data and export it,
then what's the point?
what's the
Yeah,
point? What's
yeah.
the point?
Actually, because when you say it this way, right, I think it's funny. I'm also thinking about the CISO leaders, CISOs and security leaders. Who, not that they're waking up now. They've been trying to tackle the co-pilots of this world, AI adoption in the company. No one's trying to slow it down. I don't think anyone believes that this is not the future. But there is definitely a sense of nervousness for the fear of the unknown, for lack of a better word,
Yeah,
right?
FUD.
Yes. And are there things you've found in the way people have adopted AI, or maybe in the blind spots they were like, what's a good maturity? Because a lot of people already have a security program. A lot of people may already have a data security policy. They may even have a AI council in-house as well, AI security council for governance. What are things they can include in their security program or to uplift it for AI as it's
Yeah.
growing up
So
now?
the first one, how are you using AI as a security professional? How are you arming your teams with AI powered tool sets?
Your actual
How
teams.
are you using AI to do a better job at being a protector?
Right.
Because if you're talking about enabling your business AI, are you enabling your security team with AI? Or are you sitting on the back burner and just trying to get the business gains without trying to get the security gains? Or maybe that's one of the ways that you can help combat that threat. You can make your team more agile, more efficient, much like how you're trying to make your business more agile, more efficient.
Yeah.
I take this really seriously. It's
Yeah.
my job as a leader, and this is what my talk is about on Wednesday,
Yeah. Yeah.
to give my team the tools they need to be the best at possible at doing their jobs. That's my job as a leader. I have to give them an AI powered tool set
Yeah.
or I'm lagging behind.
Yeah, fair. And to your point, does that mean in a existing security program, once you start using I guess you're doing it yourself as well. Are there areas, whether it's to still continue starting with Office 365 or look at SaaS services? What are some of, I guess where I'm going with this is because a lot of people who don't even know what maturity could look like from an AI security perspective. We
Yeah.
understand that, yes, data is important. We understand that identity is important. Sometimes access management may not be the best across the board. Single sign-on was such a big thing, but for a long
Multi-factor
time,
authentication.
oh yeah, you do that and you'll be fine. But
Everything is fixed.
yeah. But we also found that over time, these things are not enough. You have to still have, hey, make sure Ashish actually doesn't actually have access to salary information if he should not be acting.
And if you can't, then police the prompts. So I think this is the balance point, right?
Yeah.
We sometimes in security need to enable the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we shouldn't give up the monitoring. We should
Mhm.
demand that we need to do the monitoring.
Yeah.
Because you can still be the police.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
still look at what people are using the prompts for, look at the responses that they're getting, and you can still say, hey, why did you look up salary information for the CEO?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need to do that for your job. You're
Yeah.
not on some kind of special project.
Yeah.
Same as if they somehow got administrative access to Outlook or
Yeah.
Exchange or
Yeah.
an IT admin. You know, that Snowden use case we talked about before. You still need a police for these insider threats.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, there's some risk that's mitigated
Yeah.
from simply being blind to it. But the other thing that you just have to face is whatever you're feeding into this, you need to know exactly what's going to happen to it or you aren't ready. If you
Right.
turn on Copilot and your permission set is wide open and you think you can hit the undo button on that, you can't. There's no undo button from something getting chewed into a large language, at least not yet. It's not
No,
a feature yet.
yeah.
And so you need to be thinking about these things before you go buck wild and turn it on for everyone, everywhere, all the time. But this is also what's helpful about running a pilot. Security should be using the pilot. IT should be using the pilot, same as the business that's using the pilot.
Yeah.
What gains can we get? What controls do we need to put in place before we go company wide with it?
Yeah.
Or if we do go company wide with it, there's some level of risk acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm not here to make risk decisions for your company.
Yeah.
Maybe the benefit far outweighs the risk. Maybe the danger of this person knowing everyone's salary is overplayed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know your business enough to tell
Yeah,
you that.
fair.
I wouldn't want a business to not get the benefits of AI and not sit here and listen to this and think, am I doing enough with AI?
Hmm.
As well as, am I doing enough to secure it? Because we are at the infancy. We haven't even left the crib when it comes to AI in terms of the
Yeah.
world and the benefit of AI yet. And there's a lot more that we have to learn, and a lot of it's going to be learned from doing it.
You're on the money there because and I'm glad you used the example of how your team is using it with the level 1 and how they need to at least match up to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Or they get weeded out.
yeah, and
Yeah.
as a sidekick or whatever, but they should be leveling up to be better than that rather than, oh, I'm at the same level as the AI. And
Correct.
like, why are you here in the first
Yeah.
place? And
You're not adding value on top of the robots.
yeah, and to your point, as harsh as it may sound, but that is truly the reality of it as well. As a business, you don't want a security incident, not a security incident to be missed just because the right information was not provided or context was not there,
Right.
or you didn't want to work on
But
it.
let's just spin it. That's the same reason that these agents, this agentic AI is successful.
Yeah.
Do you really want to talk to someone on the phone to make a dinner reservation?
No,
No.
not really. Yeah. My AI agent could talk to it as well.
Yeah, I could send my AI to talk to your AI, and like we save time and money and headcount and
Yeah.
benefits. And I have empathy for that person that like lost that job.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Oh,
really
same.
liked
Yeah.
it. They should maybe look for the American Express concierge line or something now. Like
Yeah.
people still value that in different parts of society. But like we have to level up. Like
Yeah.
we as society have to then find new skills or new ways to train people to use the AIs or build the AIs because it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to be more efficient and to be better than the robots.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a whole nother podcast I'll have to tell you
I
about.
feel like, and I think I'm definitely in agreement with you on this as well, because I think because it's still in the beginning stages, we haven't really left the crib to work out you as well. I definitely find that a lot of people have either taken a stand for, oh, it's completely blocked off in our organization, or
Which
they're
I think is a career limiting maneuver. I will say
fully
out
agree.
loud.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement. It's almost like saying, oh, the people who
I'm not going to do cloud.
yeah, or the internet. I don't want internet.
Yeah,
in the
no
office.
internet access
We only
at
do
all.
internal LAN networks. So
Right.
it's kind of like that kind of conversation. I feel like, yes, you can try and push back on it, but for how long would you be able to do this? And
at what expense?
and what extent? Because as a business, is your executive team or board okay to take that risk of not using it and waiting and seeing what happens as well? There is that question to be asked about. What was the edge that you were looking for? And if this was the edge that you could have used to, I don't know, go IPO or go whatever, but it also opens another door for, we spoke about attack vectors. We spoke about, hey, how leaders should be trying to build this capability in their organization. Instant response is often not looked at. Unfortunately, you obviously have the detection response team under you as well. How has that world changed with AI? Because now we are multimodal. Data is, one component. Identity access management is one component. How is instant response evolving?
So in one way, you can get AI generated playbooks. So one of the things that we factored into is I've been running the IR team at Varonis for almost 6 years. So I think we had data on something like 12,000 investigations, 80,000 hours of services delivered.
Oh, wow.
And everything was tracked in a case management system.
Okay.
So we could feed all those tickets into a large language model to write playbooks on how to handle certain types of incidents. Tremendously successful at that.
Wow.
What comes out of like what you should do for a brute force attack, a ransomware investigation, domain generation algorithm, all these different styles of threats or detection techniques, really good at that.
Wow.
But at what to do when there's a live incident, still need incident commanders.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Because there's just a little bit too much input and nuance to like the risk tolerance.
Yeah.
Till we could teach AI how to understand risk tolerance of a business and business critical applications, I don't know how much it's going to be used in the live handling of an incident.
Yeah.
But on the IR side, like the collection of artifacts, the reviewing of those artifacts, the building of a timeline, AI is already doing a great job at all that.
And are you
The
finding
writing of the playbooks. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you find that you already had the data that the incident response you use. You already had information about what has been a potential false positive in the past as well.
Correct.
So now when your team sees that same information to come down, you're able to kind of quickly, oh, we can ignore this.
And what we're doing is we're having the AI analysts provide a risk score.
Yeah.
So there's elements that will increase the score and elements that will decrease the score that will ultimately lead to a recommendation of whether or not an alert is a true positive or a false positive. That's what then gets processed by the person.
Yeah.
So the person's combining this risk score, the AI's recommendation, and then their own.
Yeah.
And that's how we're able to be more precise, but also cut down on time to investigation and time to resolution.
Oh, that is so cool. Because I think I'm curious on your opinion on this. Obviously, if you take a step back and looking at people who are using AI, looking at people who are talking about AI. Within cybersecurity, what are some of the areas that you feel will be disrupted in the next coming years? You're obviously giving a keynote here at RSA as well, and you're trying to bring that element into this. Are there signals that you've already seen where you feel that, you know what, I think these one or two or three or four, whatever fields in security
Yeah.
are going to be, may even not exist maybe in the next
Like
few years?
forensics is, I think, going to really change. Like how
Really?
we collect. Yeah. Once we get an AI with enough of the packages from GitHub or from paid products to
Yeah.
collect artifacts,
Yeah.
why have a person go pull memory from a computer? Why even have a person analyze that? Right?
Yeah.
Because it gets to a certain point where the only thing that a person's going to help with is novelty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is a never before seen malware variant, so the AI is not going to do such a great job. But even that, there's AI detection, AI antivirus on the floor that if you run it through that or some type of AI sandbox, it might even spit back for you more information. So I
Yeah.
think the SOAR space is another one that could likely be disrupted by
Okay.
that, because a lot of times with a SOAR, you're just kind of like reading one company's API and maybe like Python or PowerShell and creating an integration by pinging two APIs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Copilot for GitHub can already do a lot of that. Okay, read this API manual, read this API manual, write for me a script to be able to query this and dump data and push data into this particular API.
Yeah.
What you get back usually compiles. Now, it might not be the most efficient version of it. It might not be perfect,
Yeah.
but I think these are places like SOAR and log artifact analysis and forensic analysis that I could see AI starting to gain its ground over the human resources that are doing this work.
Were any blue collar jobs you reckon that'll be impacted as well? Because we were talking about health manufacturing earlier. Would you reckon blue collar would be, or is it primarily just white collar?
This is a really great question. Here's what I'm going to say about, I'm going to give you a direct answer on that. Low skill white collar jobs
Yeah.
are going to disappear.
Oh, okay.
So
Like an
let's use
analyst.
like note takers as an example,
Oh yeah.
and keeping a calendar,
Yeah.
someone to answer the phones,
Or taking
make
notes and reading.
appointments,
Yeah.
taking notes. And there are instances already where I think the AI is better.
Meh.
It doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't yawn.
Doesn't get
It doesn't
tired.
drink water.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't need a pause.
No.
It sometimes is better with accents. I have an international business at
Yeah.
Varonis, and obviously, like sometimes I have to listen a little bit more closely for certain accents.
Yeah.
The AI does a pretty good job at that. Maybe even better than me with some accents.
Wow. And
So
can you
it's
translation as well?
yeah, clear in many languages.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, now do I know if it's clear or not? I'm just trusting it.
That's right.
But usually live translation. So I think these are places where we used to value this.
Yeah.
And what I think the reality is that we value that interpersonal relationship we had with the person delivering that work. Now,
Right.
and that's what's going to be gone.
Okay.
Let's take like a secretary, for instance.
Yeah.
You could develop a lifelong relationship with a secretary.
Yeah.
They get you. Do you still want that? Is that still valued by society, or are you going to value precision and timeliness over that?
Because that was their
that's
role in the
real
beginning, right?
question.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They're like they're in your life, like a supportive person. Are
Yeah.
you going to take the robot over that? This is like the existential question about AI and replacing these, again, lower skill, but still valued jobs in the workforce.
Yeah.
These clerical type jobs.
Do you find it's an interesting one, right? Because a lot of people are nervous, but there are a lot of people also on the camp of it will take a long time before that happens. Do you feel like there's a timeline already in the horizon in the next
Oh, I think that those jobs, that's already happening.
already happening?
Absolutely. You started this conversation, 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
telling me about how you called a restaurant.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I
That
did.
job is gone.
Actually, to your point,
That person's job is
yeah,
gone.
and that's a restaurant as well. So,
Correct.
which is probably like the lowest denominator in
Correct.
terms of the
One of
bigger
the
crisis.
most common things that exist.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the question really is, does that mean less jobs? I don't think so.
No.
I think we have now developed the agents, secure the models.
Yeah.
We have deploy them. We have all the services around getting there with it. The jobs are just shifting.
Yep. I agree.
Until we hit to this critical mass point, again, we leave the crib, we learn how to walk with
Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
we get to this critical mass point where it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, it's integrated in everything. This is where I think we start to see that there isn't as much of this explosion of, I need services to build AI, run AI, and secure AI.
Yeah.
We kind of figure that out. So that kind of levels off, that kind of plateaus. And then we're at a point where we've replaced jobs and we're continuously replacing jobs, but we're not adding new ones.
Oh yeah. We just need to go through that period in terms
Yeah,
of
I
we
think
haven't
it's
really.
our whole lifetime though.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
fair.
you and me will see this.
No, yeah, it'll be a while before that happens. Hopefully, I don't even.
Hopefully I'll be retired.
Yeah, on a yacht somewhere. Hopefully,
Yeah,
get a
maybe.
face mask on at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
But that's most of the technical questions I have. I'll have
In
put three-
Monaco,
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, I'm going.
watching the Grand Prix or something. I'm dreaming here.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I love to do that as well. On Monaco on a cruise, watching the Grand Prix. I would. It's a great dream. It's a great vacation as well. If anyone wants to take it as well. I've got 3 fun questions as well towards the tail end of this. First question being, what do you spend most of your time on when you're not running the cloud incident response, traveling for all of this data security kind of conversation? What do you spend most of your time on?
I'll give you 3 things. 1, self-care,
Oh,
which I'm
nice.
going to do some social media about after my RSA talk. That might include face
Oh,
masks
yeah.
or self-grooming or even journaling. I picked up journaling a
All
couple
right.
years ago to really, I feel like I get to experience so much in a day that if I don't write it down, I won't remember everything or all the cool conversations or the cool ideas
Ah,
I had. But it's
yeah,
also a great way to dump your thoughts out if you're like thinking really intensively
yeah,
about something.
yeah.
So let's put self-care as number 1. 2, I started racing cars. So I love racing cars. I'm a big fan of 911s and
Oh, yeah.
Porsches
Wow.
and racing GT3s. I just did my first track day at Spa-Francorchamps in
Oh, wow.
Belgium in March.
Wow.
I did 60 something laps over the course of 5 hours.
Oh, my
Had a couple
God.
of breaks in between. I went to Porsche's racing school in Motorsports Park in Birmingham,
Yeah,
Alabama.
yeah.
Had an incredible time. Like I'm learning how to do that. And then I'm also like a precision marksman. So I
Okay.
love shooting long range.
Oh,
And
nice.
if I'm not traveling the world for my business or trying to take care of myself or my mind, I do a lot of audiobooks too.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
probably racing cars or shooting guns.
Oh, my God. It's pretty awesome. The second question, what is something that you're proud of that is not on your social media?
The first house I ever bought was in Silver Spring, Maryland, and it had like weeds and dirt for a lawn. And over the course of 2 years, I grew a country club golf course level lawn
Oh,
and took
wow.
meticulous care of it. Even if I was only home like once every 2 weeks, I was out there trimming it and fertilizing it and aerating it
Oh,
and
wow.
edging it. And you could have a picnic on my yard and think you were at Augusta National.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
and it just like growing grass. I also learned how to grow roses during that time, which are a quite temperamental flower.
Okay.
And so I'm very proud of that. It also as someone that like I travel a lot.
Right.
I don't get to have a lot of like my own space and stuff. I'm like
Of
in
course.
hotels or
Right. Fair.
car service and
Yeah.
airplanes. And so it's like connect with your land is
Mm.
also, there's something really special about
Yeah.
that.
I guess the sand and everything.
Yeah, the dirt and the
Yeah.
sand and it's your grass.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I hope to get back to that someday. I'm living a bit of a nomadic life right now. So I'm not really staying in any one place for too long. I hope to get to the point where I can grow grass again. And I can
Well,
say I'm proud of it.
I was going to say Monaco only has water. So I don't know if Monaco.
I'll grow something on my balcony.
Fair. Final question. What's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share with us?
Oh, I'm like a aspiring carnivore. So
Oh.
steak, man. Take me to a
Oh.
steakhouse with a ribeye with salt and
Like
butter
a
and
T-bone
oh
steak?
yeah, ribeye. Remember
Oh,
those?
ribeye. Oh, fair.
And it's got to be cooked medium. I know this is going to spur some discussion.
Oh, yeah, fair.
But you need the fat to marbleize and cook out. and
Yeah,
render out
yeah.
so that what's left is just like a juicy pile of protein.
Oh.
And throw some flat like flaky Morton salt on top of that.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm done.
Oh,
All it done.
that definitely is pretty awesome. And what's your favorite restaurant then? Because you travel so much.
If I had to pick one,
Yeah.
it would be Bourbon Steak, which is at the Four Seasons there's a couple of them.
Oh, yeah,
But there's
okay.
one at the Four Seasons in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
My absolute favorite. It's on the canal in Georgetown.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the ambiance or just the way the tables are set up, but I just feel like you get a great steak there. You can get a great glass of red wine to go with
With a
it.
great view as well.
And a great view of the canal. And it's like colonial, but also modern at the same time, like in the heart of DC.
Oh, wow. I'll check that out. But if people want to talk more about any of this conversation we've had so far in terms of data security, changing landscape of AI and everything, even in fact, even if it's an incident response in cloud and AI as well, where can people find you online and connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely the best place.
Yeah.
I have a whole team that helps me support my LinkedIn. And
Oh,
there's
awesome.
standing in front of us right now while we're recording this podcast. And so that's a great place to find me.
Yeah, awesome. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But dude, this was a great conversation. Then thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. If you've been enjoying content like this, you can find more episodes like these on www.cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. We are also publishing these episodes on social media as well, so you can definitely find these episodes there. Oh, by the way, just in case there was interest in learning about AI cybersecurity, we also have a sister podcast called AI Cybersecurity Podcast, which may be of interest as well. I'll leave the links in the description for you to check them out. And also for our weekly newsletter, where we do in-depth analysis of different topics within cloud security, ranging from identity, endpoint, all the way up to what is the CNAP or whatever a new acronym that comes out tomorrow. Thank you so much for supporting, listening, and watching. I'll see you next time.